The massive diplomatic vessel of the Galactic Council drifted at the edge of unknown space, its silver hull reflecting distant starlight. Inside, Ambassador Reed of the Blue Star species paced nervously on his four legs. His scales shifted from deep blue to pale green, reflecting his growing anxiety. Unknown vessel detected at coordinates 227 Mark 43, announced the ship's eye. Size and configuration do not match any known species. Reed hurried to the observation deck, joined by his fellow council members. Through the reinforced windows, they watched as a small ship approached. Its design was unlike anything they had seen before. Sleek lines and dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Scan them," ordered Reed, his voice carrying the authority of 10,000 years of galactic civilization. The Council had done this hundreds of times before, finding new species, guiding them into the galactic community, teaching them the proper ways of space travel. The scan results made the technician's eyes widen. "Sir, their hull. It's made of materials we can't identify, and their power readings are off the charts." Reed clicked his mandibles in annoyance. "Send the standard greeting package. Let's show these newcomers how civilized species behave." The diplomatic vessel transmitted the carefully crafted first contact message, a combination of mathematical sequences and peaceful imagery that had worked perfectly with every other species they had encountered. The response came almost instantly, not in the simple mathematical patterns they expected, but in clear, translated galactic standard. "This is Captain Tom Wilson of the Earth exploration vessel Starseeker. We acknowledge your greeting and request permission to establish communication." The council members looked at each other in shock. No new species had ever decoded their language so quickly. "How dare they?" shouted one of the council members. "They must have been spying on our communications to learn our language so fast. We should teach them some respect." Reed agreed. They couldn't let this violation of protocol go unchallenged. He ordered the ship's defense screens to full power, not to attack, but to demonstrate their technological superiority. The diplomatic vessel's shields lit up the space around them in a dazzling display of power. That's when their sensors detected something new. Massive energy spike at coordinates 225 Mark 41. The technician screamed. "Something big is coming." The space behind the small Earth vessel seemed to twist, a massive shape emerging from what looked like a tear in reality itself. As the distortion cleared, Reed felt his heart stop. A warship appeared, but calling it just a warship was like calling a star just a light. It was enormous, easily dwarfing the diplomatic vessel. Its hull was covered in what looked like layers of armor, bristling with weapons that made their defensive systems look like toys. The name Hest Thunder was painted on its side in bold letters. "This is Captain James Miller of the Human Space Service Thunder," a new voice announced calmly over their comm system. "We noticed you powered up your weapon systems near our exploration vessel. I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding, but perhaps we should discuss proper first contact protocols." The council members stood frozen, their species' various signs of fear on full display. Reed's scales had turned pure white. They had expected to find primitive beings learning to crawl into space. Instead, they had discovered a race that had mastered technologies the Council had only dreamed of. As the HSS Thunder moved into a protective position near the Starseeker, Reed realized that everything the Council knew about first contact was about to change. These humans weren't going to be guided into galactic civilization. They were going to reshape it. The first lesson of humanity had been delivered. Never judge a species by their first ship alone. Ambassador Reed's communication panel lit up with urgent messages from across the galaxy. His hand shook as he read report after report about human ships. The HSS Thunder hung in space before them, its massive form blocking out the stars. "Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from High Command," the communications officer announced, his voice trembling. The main screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Vex, his red eyes glowing with worry. "Ambassador Reed, get your ship out of there immediately. We've just received reports from the border worlds." The humans. They're not what we thought. What do you mean? Reed asked, trying to keep his voice steady as he glanced at the thunder through the viewing window. 3 cycles ago, a mining colony reported a human ship saving them from a solar flare by creating some kind of energy shield we've never seen before. 2 cycles ago, a human vessel outran our fastest scout ships while carrying a full load of cargo. And yesterday, the Admiral paused, his expression grim. Yesterday, we watched a single human warship take down an entire pirate fleet without taking a single hit. The council members in the room listened in growing horror as the Admiral continued. Their ships move in ways that break our understanding of physics. They have weapons that ignore our strongest shields. And that ship you're looking at, it's not even their largest. Just then, Captain Miller's voice came through their speakers again. Ambassador Reed, we've detected several ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel nearby. They're using stealth technology, but we can see them clearly. Would you like us to escort you to safety? Reed's scales turned pale again. Their own sensors showed nothing but empty space. How could the humans see what they couldn't? Impossible, whispered one of the council's science officers. Our sensors are the most advanced in known space. They can't possibly. The science officer never finished his sentence. Space rippled as 5 ships appeared out of nowhere, their hulls bearing the mark of the Dark Claw pirates. Ships that had terrorized this sector for years, always vanishing before the council's fleet could catch them. This is Commander Jack of the Dark Claw, a rough voice broadcast on all frequencies. Surrender your vessels and prepare to be boarded. Resist and we'll. The commander's threat was cut short as the HSS Thunder moved. Reed had never seen anything so large move so fast. The human warship seemed to flow through space like water, its movement smooth and precise. "This is Captain Miller," came the calm response. "You have exactly 10 seconds to power down your weapons and engines. We will accept your surrender and ensure you receive a fair trial. If you choose to fight," he left the sentence hanging. The pirates responded with a barrage of plasma torpedoes. Reed watched in amazement as small points of light flickered around the Thunder, point defense systems swatting the torpedoes out of space as if they were nothing more than annoying insects. "Time's up," Miller said simply. The Thunder's response was beautiful and terrifying. Beams of energy that seemed to bend space itself reached out and touched each pirate ship with surgical precision. No explosions, no debris. The ships simply powered down, their engines dead. "Ambassador Reed," Miller's voice returned, somehow still maintaining its professional calm. "We've disabled their ships without causing casualties. Would you like to send boarding parties to arrest them, or should we handle it?" Reed looked at his fellow council members, seeing his own shock reflected in their faces. In less than a minute, these humans had accomplished what the council fleet had failed to do for years. Reed swallowed hard. "We would appreciate your assistance, Captain Miller." As he watched human boarding shuttles launch from the Thunder, Reed realized that the warning from High Command had come too late. The galaxy wasn't ready for humans, but ready or not, humanity had arrived. As Ambassador Reed watched the human boarding parties efficiently secure the pirate vessels, his second-in-command accessed the historical archives they had gathered about Earth. The data streamed across their screens, telling a story that made their blood run cold. Humans had not found their way to the stars through peaceful exploration. They had clawed their way up from their world through centuries of warfare and struggle. Every advancement, every technological leap, came from their need to survive against each other. The screens showed images from Earth's past, massive metal ships crossing vast oceans, flying machines that evolved from simple gliders to supersonic aircraft in less than a century, and rockets that went from weapons of war to tools of space exploration. "Look at this," the science officer said, pointing to a timeline. "They went from their first powered flight to landing on their moon in just 66 years. That's impossible." But the impossible sat right outside their viewport. The HSS Thunder was proof of humanity's relentless drive to push beyond limits. More data scrolled past. Humans splitting the atom, harnessing fusion, developing artificial gravity, and finally, cracking the secret of faster-than-light travel. But unlike other species who had made these discoveries over thousands of years, humans had done it all in just a few centuries. Their warships, Reed muttered, reading further. They never stopped improving them. The history showed how humans had taken the lessons from every war, every battle, and applied them to their space vessels. While other species built ships as pure weapons or pure exploration vessels, humans created ships that could do both, and do them better than anyone else. The HSS Thunder's design suddenly made more sense. Its smooth hull wasn't just for show. It contained layers of adaptive armor that could react to different types of attacks. The seemingly random patterns of lights across its surface were actually part of a massive sensor array that could detect cloaked ships and scan entire star systems in seconds. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "Captain Miller is requesting permission to share their ship's medical facilities to treat injured pirates." Reed blinked in surprise. The same ship that had disabled 5 vessels in seconds also carried advanced medical facilities. The records answered his unspoken question. Humans had learned that the best warships weren't just about destroying enemies. They were about protecting and saving lives too. A new file opened on their screens, showing the Thunder's construction. Built in orbit around Mars, it represented everything humanity had learned about survival, exploration, and warfare. Its engines could cross vast distances faster than any Council ship. Its weapons were precise enough to disable a fighter craft's engines without destroying it. Its shields could withstand the heat of the sun. "This isn't just a warship," the science officer whispered. "It's a testament to their history." Reed understood now. Every panel, every system on the Thunder carried the weight of human history. They had built it not because they wanted war, but because their past had taught them to always be ready for it. Yet they had also learned to temper their power with mercy, their strength with wisdom. As they watched, the Thunder shuttles returned with the captured pirates. The human ship's massive medical bay was already prepared to treat the injured, while its brig, designed to hold prisoners of various species safely and humanely, stood ready for the others. "They're perfect warriors," Reed's assistant said, "but they choose to be peacekeepers." Reed shook his head. "No," he replied, understanding finally dawning. "They're survivors. Everything they built, every advancement they made, came from their drive to survive." And now, he looked at the magnificent vessel outside their window, a ship that could destroy them all, but instead offered protection and aid. Now they want to help others survive too. The warning came without fanfare. The HSS Thunder's AI spoke directly through the Council ship's communication system. Multiple hostile vessels detected. 23 warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Weapons charging. Before Reed could process this information, space itself seemed to tear open. A fleet of battleships emerged, their hulls painted with the skull emblem of the Star Reapers, the most feared pirate army in the sector. "This is Lord Commander Grell of the Star Reapers," a deep voice boomed through all channels. "The Dark Claw pirates were fools. We are not. Surrender now, or—" Captain Miller's calm voice cut through the transmission. "Ambassador Reed, please move your vessel behind the Thunder. We'll handle this." The Star Reapers' ships opened fire immediately. Hundreds of energy beams and plasma torpedoes lit up space like a deadly light show. Reed held his breath, expecting to see the mighty Thunder torn apart by the massive barrage. Instead, he witnessed something extraordinary. The Thunder's hull rippled like water. Each incoming shot was either absorbed or deflected, the energy dispersing harmlessly into space. The human warship moved with impossible grace, its massive form dancing between enemy fire as if it were a small fighter craft. "Fascinating design," Reed's science officer muttered, eyes glued to his sensors. "Their hull isn't just armor. It's alive somehow. It learns from each attack and adapts." "Warning shot completed," the Thunder's AI announced. Reed blinked. He hadn't even seen the thunder fire. Then he noticed one of the Reaper ships floating dead in space, its weapons and engines disabled by a single precise strike. "This is your final warning," Miller announced to the pirates. "Power down your weapons and surrender. We won't ask again." The Reapers responded by launching their fighters, hundreds of small, deadly craft swarming toward the thunder like angry insects. What happened next left the council members speechless. The Thunder's point defense system activated, but instead of traditional energy weapons, rings of blue light pulsed outward from the ship. Each ring caught dozens of fighter craft, stopping them in place as if frozen in time. "Temporal defense grid," the science officer whispered in awe. "They've weaponized time itself." The remaining Reaper ships tried to coordinate their attack, concentrating their fire on one spot. The Thunder's hull brightened at the point of impact, not just blocking the attack but seemingly absorbing the energy. Power absorption at 200%, the Thunder's AI reported calmly. Converting excess energy to shield reinforcement, preparing main weapon systems. The Thunder's response was both beautiful and terrifying. Lines of golden light traced across its hull like circuits awakening. The energy it had absorbed from the pirates' attack was being redirected, transformed. "Final warning ignored," Miller stated. "Executing non-lethal containment protocol." Beams of light shot out from the Thunder in all directions, each one finding its target with perfect accuracy. Where they touched, Reaper ships simply stopped. Weapons, engines, and communication systems all going silent at once. Within 30 seconds, the entire Reaper fleet hung powerless in space. "Ambassador Reed," Miller called. "We've disabled their ships without casualties. Their life support systems remain functional, but they won't be going anywhere. Would you like to coordinate with nearby Council forces for arrest and transport?" Reed stared at the scene before him. The most feared pirate fleet in the sector, notorious for destroying entire colonies, had been defeated in less than a minute, and the Thunder had done it without taking a single life. "How?" he started to ask. "Human engineering," Miller replied simply. "We believe the best victories are the ones where everyone gets to go home afterward." The council members watched in stunned silence as the Thunder launched shuttles to secure the disabled ships. They had just witnessed not just a demonstration of power, but of mercy, and they weren't sure which was more impressive. Inside the council ship's main conference room, Reed watched the video feeds of the Thunder's crew handling the captured pirates. The human ship had transformed part of its cargo bay into a temporary holding facility, complete with medical stations for each known species in the galaxy. "Look at how they designed those holding cells," the security chief pointed out. "They're not just cages. Each one is perfectly adapted for different species needs. They must have studied every race in the galaxy without us even knowing." Reed nodded, his scales shifting to a thoughtful blue. On another screen, he watched human engineers repairing damaged pirate ships. They worked with tools that seemed to bend the laws of physics, fixing in hours what should have taken weeks. "Their technology," the science officer said, bringing up detailed scans of the Thunder. "It's not just advanced, it's beautiful. Look at the engine design. The power flows through the ship like blood in a living being. Even their weapons are works of art." The scans showed layer upon layer of systems working in perfect harmony. The Thunder wasn't just a collection of weapons and shields. It was a masterpiece of engineering. Every part served multiple purposes, every system backed up by 3 others. "Sir," called the communications officer, "we're receiving requests from 17 council worlds. They all want to open diplomatic relations with Earth immediately." Of course they did. The Thunder's display of power and mercy had been broadcast across council space. Everyone had seen how the humans handled the notorious Star Reapers, not with brute force, but with precise, careful action that protected even their enemies. A notification chimed, and a new hologram appeared in the center of the conference room. It showed the Thunder's internal layout. Captain Miller had granted them limited access to study the ship's design. "Amazing," whispered an engineer. The civilian quarters are as well protected as the bridge. They value every life aboard equally. Reed watched as his staff pored over the data. The Thunder carried scientists, diplomats, and families alongside its military crew. Its massive laboratories were equipped for everything from medical research to xenobiology. The ship even had gardens producing fresh food for every known species' dietary needs. This isn't just a warship, Reed realized aloud. It's humanity's statement to the galaxy. Everything they are, everything they value, built into one vessel. The ship's weapon systems told a similar story. Each one was designed to disable rather than destroy. The temporal defense grid could freeze attacking ships in place. The energy absorption system could drain power from enemy weapons. Even the main guns were built to precisely target engines and weapons while leaving crew quarters untouched. They turned warfare into a science, the security chief said with admiration, not to cause more destruction, but to prevent it. Alerts sounded, and they watched as the Thunder launched another shuttle. This one carried medical supplies to a nearby council colony that had been raided by the Star Reapers. The humans had already begun helping those the pirates had hurt. "Permission to speak freely, Ambassador?" asked Reed's assistant. Reed nodded. "We thought we were the teachers of the galaxy, that every new species needed our guidance to become civilized. But the humans," she paused, looking at the magnificent ship outside their window. "They're showing us what civilization truly means." Reed couldn't argue. In just a few days, humanity had demonstrated technology that surpassed the Council's finest achievements. But more importantly, they had shown wisdom in how they used that technology. "Send a message to Council High Command," Reed ordered. Tell them that humanity doesn't need our guidance. They need our friendship, and we need theirs." Outside, the HSS Thunder continued its work, its very presence a reminder that the galaxy's future had changed forever. And perhaps for the better. Deep within the HSS Thunder's intelligence center, Officer Mark West stared at his data screens with growing concern. He had been analyzing communications from the captured pirates, and something didn't add up. "Captain Miller," he called through the ship's internal comm. "You need to see this, sir." The captain arrived minutes later, his experienced eyes scanning the decoded messages displayed across the screens. The data showed money transfers, coded orders, and secret communications, all leading back to an unexpected source. "Are you certain about this?" Miller asked, his voice grave. "Yes, sir. The Dark Claw pirates, the Star Reapers, they were hired. Someone in the Galactic Council's inner circle arranged everything." Miller's face hardened. "Contact Ambassador Reed. He needs to see this." 30 minutes later, Reed stood in the Thunder's intelligence center, his scales shifting between pale green and gray as he read the evidence. The human chip's computers had broken encryption that Council experts had claimed was unbreakable. "These attacks," West explained, pointing to a timeline, "weren't random. They were coordinated to happen right after first contact with Earth. Someone wanted to test human military capabilities." Reed felt sick. "Council member Dax," he whispered, recognizing the encrypted signature. "He controls the Defense Committee. He must have wanted to assess if we were a threat," Miller finished, "by putting civilian lives at risk." More data appeared on the screens. The Thunder's AI had traced financial transactions through 100 hidden accounts. Council member Dax hadn't just hired pirates. He'd been building a secret fleet, preparing for a possible war with Earth. "The pirates were just the first wave," West continued. "If they had succeeded, if we had shown any weakness, the Defense Committee would have declared humans too dangerous to join the Council," Reed realized. "They would have used our own laws to isolate Earth, maybe even launch a preemptive strike." Captain Miller's face remained calm, but his eyes showed controlled anger. "Ambassador, we're sharing this with you because Earth wants peace. We built ships like the Thunder not because we want war, but because we understand that strength can prevent it." Reed looked around the intelligence center. The technology here could have easily been used to spy on the Council, to gather blackmail material or plan attacks. Instead, humans had used it to uncover a threat to both their peoples. "What do you want to do?" Reed asked. "Nothing," Miller replied simply. "Nothing. The Thunder's presence here has already changed things. Every council world has seen what we can do. More importantly, they've seen how we choose to use our power." West brought up new data. "Since we stopped the Star Reapers, 3 other pirate fleets have surrendered to council authorities. They're afraid of meeting us. And 17 council members have publicly called for immediate alliance with Earth. The best weapon," Miller said, "is one you never have to fire. The Thunder isn't just a warship, it's a deterrent. Now that Council member Dax's fleet knows what we're capable of, they won't dare attack." Reed finished, understanding dawning. "You're not going to expose the conspiracy because you don't need to. Your ship's very existence has already prevented the war they wanted." Miller nodded. "Exactly. Although, Ambassador, if you choose to investigate Council member Dax's activities yourself," Reed's scales shifted to a determined blue, "I believe the Council's Internal Affairs Division would be very interested in this financial data, purely as part of a routine audit, of course." "Of course," Miller agreed, a slight smile on his face. "After all, humans aren't the only ones who believe in justice." As Reed left the Intelligence Center, he realized that humanity had taught the Council another lesson. True power wasn't just about having the strongest weapons. It was about knowing when not to use them. 1 month after the events near human space, the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Representatives from 500 worlds gathered to witness something unprecedented: the fastest admission of a new species in Council history. The HSS Thunder hung in orbit above the Council capital world, its presence both a comfort to some and a reminder to others. Since its arrival in Council space, piracy had dropped by 80%. No one wanted to risk meeting the famous human warship. Ambassador Reed stood at the speaking platform, his scales shimmering with pride as he addressed the assembly. Behind him, Captain Miller represented Earth, wearing his formal uniform but choosing to stand rather than sit on the offered throne-like chair. 1 month ago, Reed began, many of us thought we knew our place in the galaxy. We were the teachers, the guides, the civilized ones who would help younger species grow. He paused, looking around the chamber. We were wrong. Screens around the chamber showed images of the Thunder in action, defending colonies, providing aid, stopping pirates without bloodshed. But they also showed smaller things: human engineers teaching council technicians, medical staff treating the sick, scientists sharing discoveries. Humanity, Reed continued, came to us not as students, but as equals. They showed us that true civilization isn't about who has the most powerful ships. It's about how you use that power. In the upper balcony, Council member Dax was notably absent. The routine audit had uncovered his conspiracy, leading to his quiet removal. His secret fleet had disbanded, its captains unwilling to face ships like the Thunder. The humans built magnificent warships, Reed said, not because they wanted war, but because they understood that strength can preserve peace. They created weapons that could destroy worlds, then chose to use them only to protect life. Captain Miller stepped forward when invited, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Earth comes before you not as supplicants, but as partners. We offer our technology, our knowledge, and our friendship. Together, we can build a safer galaxy for all species. The vote that followed was nearly unanimous. Earth would join the Council not as a junior member, but as a full partner. More importantly, the Council voted to create a new joint defense force, with humans training other species in their methods of peaceful conflict resolution. After the ceremony, Reed found Miller looking out a window at the Thunder. Strange, Miller said, to think that a warship would end up becoming a symbol of peace. Reed's scales rippled with amusement. Not strange at all. Your ship taught us that true power comes from wisdom, not weapons. That strength means nothing without compassion. And what happens now? Miller asked. Now, Reed looked out at the thunder, its hull gleaming in the light of an alien sun. Now we build something new. Together. As if in response, the thunder's hull shimmered, its adaptive metal reflecting the light of 1,000 stars. In ports across Council space, new ships were already being built, combining human innovation with alien technology. But they weren't just warships anymore. They were guardians, explorers, and bridges between cultures. You know, Miller said thoughtfully, when we first designed the Thunder, some people back home worried it would send the wrong message. That building such a powerful warship would make us look aggressive. Instead, Reed replied, it showed us who you really are. A species that grew strong not to dominate, but to protect, to help others, to make the galaxy better. Outside, ships from a dozen worlds docked with the Thunder, their crews coming to learn, to share, to build trust. The sight of a human warship approaching no longer brought fear, it brought hope. The age of isolation was over. The age of cooperation had begun, and it all started because a single human warship approached, carrying not just weapons and shields, but wisdom and compassion that would change the galaxy forever.